Hello, I'm going to take you through the WordPress Toolkit that you can find in your control panel when you host with IDS Hosting. This toolkit is really worthwhile getting to know. It's an all-in-one tool that can help you update your site, can help you manage your site better, and can advise and tell you what's happening on the security side, and you can set the security on the site as well. You can harden the site by fixing vulnerabilities. I'm just going to run through it from left to right, just explaining each detail in a sort of a quick overview. There is a lot of information online about this as well, which you can watch, and videos that other people have made. But if you've got a WordPress website, I really recommend that you use this to manage your site. I've just used an old development site that I did. At the top we can add tags, whatever, if you just want to add some additional information. Down the side here you can log into the site. If you have used this tool to install WordPress, then you can immediately just log in here. Otherwise, if you click log in, it gives you an opportunity to change the password for your website. So be careful if you change passwords and other people have got the old passwords. Setup is the same as login there. Going down, you've got your updates and your auto updates. This we will cover with the plugins because that's what it refers to. When it comes to Smart Update, you will see it in a few places. Smart Update means it will first make a copy of your site. It takes quite a long time, but and of course you need the space. Makes a copy and then does the updates, and if the updates are not working, it reverts back to the original script. It's recommended if you've got the time. But before you do anything, make sure that you run backups of your site, which I'll show you where to do that, and then you have that there anyway. At the top here, you can go to your file manager. That's the file manager you will find in your cPanel. It's got a shortcut here. Here you can copy data from the site. Here you can clone your site. The backup and restore is an important part, where you can, as I said, back up the site, where you just it'll load, it'll tell you if you've got any backups. The backups are stored in a folder called WordPress Backups. You'll find that in your file manager. If you physically want to see the backup, double click it and you will download it. To start the backup, you just click over here. If you have previous backups, as I said, you will see it listed there, and you can also manage it. You can delete the old backups here as well. Logs is just it tells you, records what has been done in this particular builder. Plugin updates. This is the most important thing that you must keep updated at all times in your WordPress site. It'll tell you what plugins you've got, and then you can select the plugins and you can update here. And then you have the settings for your plugins over here, where you can say what sort of plugins. If you go for auto updates, what sort of plugins. You say no, I don't want to update. Yes, I want to only do minor. Yes, minor and major, and you can fine-tune what sort of updates you want automatically done. Here also you have smart update, where it will save information before it changes anything. It's the same with the theme, where you can update your theme. On the fixing vulnerabilities, this is probably the most important part, other than updating of. Sorry, I missed the WordPress one here. This particular one is updated, but if it is not the latest one, it will tell you, and you can also update your WordPress. So when it comes to WordPress, you've got three main areas to update: the WordPress script itself, plugins that you've used, and themes that you've used. And then you can harden your site by having a look at what vulnerabilities you've got. It'll list the vulnerabilities and actions. To me, a more important part is the security measures over here, where you can select what security measures you need to use. I've selected a few already, and these are the ones that I would recommend. But when they are selected and you save it by clicking secure at the top here, then they will move down to underneath the ones which are not secure. The ones which I suggest that you look at, which is important, is restrict access to files and directories, your security keys, access to XML RPC. This is the item that probably gets hit the most, and so you can just stop people from accessing that. You really don't need that unless you know what it is. It's to do with sharing information. Block browser directories, block directory browsing. This is important over here. Your config file. No one needs to write on your config file once it's set up. It just can be read only. So what this does, it changes it to read only, so no one can change it. And there are a number of other items here. What is also important is your htaccess file. I would block that as well. So blocking it, meaning it can't be written to by anyone, and because it doesn't need, it's just an information file, it doesn't need to be written to. But especially your config file. Config file has important information, connecting databases and so on. That should be. But what is nice is if your site breaks, you just come back here and you can undo it. But you'll find that the ones which I mentioned won't break your site. These are important things to harden your site, and is recommended. Your PHP version, we must always go for the latest PHP version. At the moment we're running at version 8.1, but as time goes by, you know that it'll go to higher versions. And this is where you can change it. This is important. You need to keep updated with your PHP. Now what quite often happens is when you update your PHP version with updating your site, it can break your site, because as new plugins come out and themes, they only run on, some of them only run on later PHP versions. But be careful to be caught where some plugins only run on earlier versions of PHP and some of your plugins only run on later versions of PHP, so you're kind of stuck in the middle. If this is the case, log into your backend of your WordPress, disable all your plugins, and then start switching them on one at a time. The CSS over here is to check that in your cPanel that you've got it activated. You just go into domain section, find your domain, and then just click the slider to enable it. If it's not enabled, it doesn't mean that your SLL is not working. Sorry, your SSL is not working, but it'll just tell you that the one on the cPanel hasn't been activated. Okay, I'm just going to run through the tools quickly, and then on these items at the bottom, and then we're finished. All right, search engine indexing. If you're developing your site and you don't want Google or any of the other search engines to index your site yet, in other words, to list it on Google, then you can just switch it off. Remember to switch it on though once the site is ready. Remember, this is only a request. This is not something that will force them. They might still index your site, but the better search engines, I think Chrome really does listen to this. Debugging is when something has happened to your site and you want the error messages to show on the screen. So when you load your website at the top, you will see error messages just to debug. Remember to switch that off. Password protection is if you want a password on a particular page. Once the page is loaded, you want to have a password on it. The WP cron is something I'll always activate. WordPress runs a cron file, which is like an automatic script that runs every time it's triggered under certain conditions. But every time a page is loaded in WordPress, it runs a cron, and it's a whole process that goes through. It looks at all sorts of things, and this slows your site down. So this stops that from running, but it enables a cron to run on a schedule basis to check for updates and so on. So it takes a lot of load off the site. You can enable hot links so people can't link to your site, and link pictures and so to show on other websites. Maintenance mode, you want to do something on the site for a while and you don't want people to see the site, you can switch it over to maintenance mode. Note that when your plugins and themes are and WordPress is being updated, it will also go to the same maintenance mode while it's updating. The integrity setting for WordPress or check is something that is important. If you suspect there are problems on your site, you can verify your site files, your site call files against WordPress. It will have a look to see if the files are all the same. If they're not, you can reinstall the core WordPress files. You can do that. It won't harm your site unless you've made changes into the core files, then it would, once you've updated it with a new WordPress, those changes will no longer be there. However, changing core files is not recommended at all. So if you're just adding plugins, templates, and doing your work in the template, your core files are not changed, and so you can just reinstall them if you need to. The plugins, themes, and databases over here is pretty much the plugins and the themes is pretty much the same as this one over here. This is just database information telling you what your database name is, the name and username and so forth. It won't show you a password here. You will see the password in your WP config file. That's why you need to protect it. And it's telling you what the prefix is of your database file if you need it.